Mr. Speaker, I'm Professor Julius Iwobi'S, our federal constituency. You recall, Mr. Speaker, that on Tuesday,
the leader must be heard in silence. The leader must be heard in silence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On Tuesday, I spoke to this bill and explained the importance at this particular time in our history, given our location centrally in the increasing complex and competitive technology-driven global division of labor and power. And like you rightly said, the issue was that people didn't have copies. And I hope you all have copies of this now. Thank you. It has been circulated just now. I just got this here. Well, let me say that this is an amendment. It's not a new bill, and it's a Senate bill which has been passed in the Senate and sent to us for concurrence. There is a tradition of understanding not to delay bills that are sent from the Senate here and vice versa. So whatever we do here, your bill will also get there. And I hope it doesn't happen to you. Now, as I said on Tuesday, the purpose is to strengthen an existing law so that it will live with the times and capture the realities of complex computer and internet transactions. But more importantly, are you hearing me? You are not hearing me. There's something must be wrong. Thank you very much, my brother. Now, if in the current world we do not take the kind of steps being proposed in this bill, we'll be lagging behind other nations. This bill looks at electronic signatures. Many of us go to the banks or anywhere and you just sign a document. It seeks to protect that signature in a complex and comprehensive database to ensure nobody gains access to your signature to forge documents in your name. It talks about reporting cyber threats and cyber stalking. This is, you know what happened to Iwobi just after the match. The young man was blamed for everything that happened in Abidjan. And he wants to ensure that you will not be cyber threatened or cyber stalked. It talks about identity theft. And I mentioned this a few days ago, people hacking into our computer systems and pretending to be you. Right now, Mr. Speaker, if you go online and you try to buy some of these drugs on diabetes, you will see them using the faces and using artificial intelligence to change the voice of our popular media newscasters, whereas they have nothing to do with these drugs or these companies, but just to make you buy the drug. That is a crime they are committing, and this bill seeks to address that. Impersonation, we've dealt with this again and again. It also talked about the manipulation of ATM and POS. I don't know how many of you have suffered this, but I...
Okay, leader, round up. Today is Valentine.
I have a staff who has... Mr. Speaker...
Silence, please.
This is Nigeria. And let me leave the Valentine issue.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
But I want to say that I plead with our colleagues to pass this bill. It is important for our identity, for data protection, for national security, and for personal security.
Constituency, I'm from Zamfara State. Mr. Speaker, this motion seeks to consider the recruitment of community policing constabulary scheme and Nigerian civil security and civil defense corps volunteers into the Nigerian Police Force and Civil Defense Corps, respectively. The House notes that the proposal put up by the federal government and the 36 state governors to recruit 500,000 volunteers across the 774 local government areas of the country through the N-Power program was designed to tackle the shortage of manpower in the Nigerian police force. also notes that the Nigerian Police Force spokesman Muyiwa Adejobi stated in August 24, 2022, that the volunteers working and trained by the Nigerian police are not direct employees or personnel of the police, but of their respective communities, hence not entitled to salary but allowances. Aware that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in line with his electioneering campaign, aimed at strengthening the Nigerian police towards optimal functionality in resolving the insecurity challenge in Nigeria, gave approval for the annual recruitment of 10,000 personnel into the force. Also aware that the chairman of the Police Service Commission, Solomon Arase, recently inaugurated an 11-man board saddled with the recruitment of police constables into the Nigerian police force, observed that the implementation of community policing strategies across the country was to focus on building strong ties between the police and the members of the communities through interaction with local agencies and members of the public, thus creating partnership and strategies for reducing crime and disorder. Cognizant of the need to prioritize experience as a tool in police and civil
Please go to your prayers.
I'm getting to that. It's the last paragraph. Defense Corps recruitment and consider employing members of the Community Policing Constabulary Scheme, volunteers and NSCDC volunteers who have demonstrated commendable performance during recruitment exercises. The House resolves to urge the Chairman, Police Service Commission and Inspector General of Police to strongly consider members of the Community Policing Constabulary Scheme who are volunteers, who have diligently performed their duties for recruitment into the Nigerian Police Force during recruitment exercise. Also urge the Minister of Interior and the Commandant of Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps to strongly consider NSCDC volunteers who have diligently performed their duties for recruitment into the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps during recruitment exercises. And finally, mandate the committees on police affairs and interior to ensure compliance.
Representing Port Harcourt Federal Constituency 2, an Ikwere woman from Rivers State. My motion reads thus: a need to investigate the operations of telemedicine practitioners in Nigeria. The House notes that telemedicine is a fast-growing area of healthcare with significant potential for improving access to healthcare and well-being of people by reducing delays in accessing healthcare due to time, distance, location. It ensures that a person with limited access to care receives healthcare services when needed. The House also notes that telemedicine companies have been operating in Nigeria for about a decade and is fast growing. The House observes that Nigeria's National Health Act of 2014 was signed into law to provide a legal framework for the regulation, development, and management of Nigeria's health system. The House is aware that the legal framework covers patient safety and quality of care, data protection and privacy, verification of medical license and qualifications, ethical considerations covering consent and confidentiality. The House is worried that there is no legal framework for telemedicine operators in Nigeria. Some providers have been asking for a blueprint guidance, while some are using the information gathered from the United Kingdom. The House is concerned that lack of specific legal framework for telemedicine operators could potentially put Nigerians in significant risk. The House believes that telemedicine has a huge potential and will benefit the country due to shortage of clinicians to meet the demands in the country. The House resolves that and urges the Federal Ministry of Health and the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria to undertake a research on the operations of telemedicine practitioners in Nigeria, and to mandate the Committee on Healthcare Services to convene a legislative summit with all stakeholders in the telemedicine and policymakers to facilitate the process of creating a legal framework for telemedicine operators in Nigeria, and to report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move a motion on the need to ban the use of and distribution of styrofoam and single-use plastics across the country. Mr. Speaker, the House notes that the provisions of Section 20 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, place a responsibility on the federal government to protect and improve the environment for present and future generations, and ensure the health and well-being of its citizens. The House also notes that the increasing use of styrofoam and single-use plastics in Nigeria poses significant environmental and public health risks, including pollution of waterways, soil, and air quality. The House further notes that chemicals found in styrofoam is linked to health issues such as cancer, vision and hearing loss, impaired memory and concentration, and nervous system effects. Honorable colleagues, the House is aware that styrofoam is prohibited in Taiwan, Rwanda, England, and many other European countries, together with some towns and states in the United States. Currently, the product is illegal in our very own Lagos and Abia states. The House is also aware that alternatives to styrofoam and single-use plastics, such as biodegradable materials, reusable containers, and recyclable packaging, can reduce environmental impact and public health risks. The House is concerned that the increasing use of styrofoam and single-use plastics in Nigeria not only leads to the increased plastic waste and environmental pollution, but also poses significant health risks. The House is cognizant that the need to address the environmental and public health crises posed by styrofoam and single-use plastics to safeguard the future of Nigeria's natural resources, ecosystems, health, and well-being of its citizens. Therefore, the House resolves to 1. Urge the federal government to ban the production, importation, distribution, and use of styrofoam and single-use plastics throughout Nigeria. 2. Also urge the federal government to implement a phased approach to the ban by providing sufficient time for businesses and industries to transition to alternative, eco-friendly materials and practices. 3. Also urge the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, and other relevant agencies to monitor the quality of packaging of foods and beverages, particularly in fast-moving consumer goods, FMCGs, ensuring global best practices are followed and all appropriate regulations guiding the whole process are adhered to. And finally, mandate the House Committee on Health Services, Environment, and Legislative Compliance to ensure compliance.
Government have been working so hard on reducing the cost of running government. And that was what led to the Steve Orasenye report, which recommended that those professional bodies should be delisted from government funding. And I agree that there's no need for us to keep funding professional bodies. For instance, if we look at the way MBA runs their operations, they're able to raise their funding from members, a lot of money, running into billions. So if you have Society of Engineers and you have qualified engineers, they should be able to make payments to their professional bodies. If we have nurses or whatever association, they should be able to raise funding to run their body. I don't think we should keep creating windows for deduction of 1%, 2%, 3% here and there to keep funding all these bodies that can be, embark on self-funding. So I say in the spirit of the part that our legislative agenda is working on reducing cost of running government, that there's no need to get involved in funding these professional bodies. We should strengthen their laws to allow them to raise their funding independently, like MBA and the Doctors Union and other groups. Even NLC is also raising their funding, among themselves. So we don't need to continue to get involved in how these professional bodies.
This bill, as it is a bill intended to reduce, eliminate, and completely remove the hazards of our commuters, the poor people on the road, every day. As it is stated here, the Right Honourable Speaker, I seek your valued support to allow that this bill be read a second time. The objective of these bills, among others, are to ensure that the safety, comfort, and the rights of commuters are prioritized, that the commuters' rights and dignity are promoted and protected, to ensure a national passengers protection plan which shall include insurance coverage for road, rail, and water transport. Mr. Speaker, the bill in Clause 3 provides for the right of commuters to choose any mode of transportation without any form of coercion or harassment. The bill also provides that commercial transporters shall ensure that lives and properties of the passengers are insured through a subscription of premium insurance cover that can facilitate making claims under the National Passengers Protection Plan in an event of accident, robberies, bandits attacks, and others. The Right Honourable Speaker, honourable members, the bill, when passed into law, will protect commuters and also ensure insurance coverage on them all. I once again solicit your support to allow the bill be read a second time to ensure that our poor passengers, our poor commuters are protected on the road. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honourable colleagues. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Academia Federal Polytechnic was established way back in 1981 and is one of the leading polytechnics in the Republic of Nigeria. So, Mr. Speaker, all we seek to do, all this bill is seeking, is an upgrade of the status of Academia Federal Polytechnic to a University of Science and Technology. Mr. Speaker, we may all recall that if we look at our legislative agenda for the 10th House of Representatives, there is emphasis on science and technology because we know the primacy, we know the importance of science and technology in pushing our economy and our overall development forward. We have listed some of the advantages we stand to gain if we have this upgrade of Academia Federal Polytechnic to a University of Science and Technology. They include special education, research and innovation, economic growth, and global competitiveness. So, Mr. Speaker, and my very respected colleagues, I urge you to kindly support this bill. It is not an establishment bill, as I have earlier said, so it's not going to be any drain whatsoever. Rather, it will help generally in putting this country where we all dream that this country should be, especially in this age of blockchain, in this age of artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. So I urge you,
honourable colleagues, please.
When you bring a bill, we propose a bill, the first thing that happens is that it's scrutinized and gazetted. When that has been done, it's published in that journal. It is deemed to have been circulated. Every member has a pigeonhole in the White House, and copies of the journals are usually placed in your pigeonhole. That is the standard practice. If your staff, the clerk has even gone further to post on the platform, but the standard practice is that it is placed in your pigeonhole. Once it is printed and circulated in that manner, nobody will bring it to your office or your house. Once that has been done and it has been printed, it is placed in your pigeonhole. Whether you collect it or not, it is deemed to have been circulated. That's in standard practice of Parliament, and that is being done. But when we came in June, this 10th Assembly, there was this rush. In one day, you will get 100 bills proposed. You get 50 bills in one day. Mr. Speaker, in his magnanimity, now said we should waive the scrutiny and gazetting until second reading. That is why we now had over 1,000 bills without scrutiny and gazetting. During the holidays, we now worked on this to ensure that every bill has been gazetted. And during this period, the rule is that you don't come for second reading until your bill has been gazetted. And because we had so many at stake, it was not required that you attach that copy of your gazetted to your lead debate. That would be our evidence that it was actually gazetted. But it is not a requirement in our practice that you attach it. I stand here to say that any bill that is on second reading has been gazetted. Otherwise, I will not list it for second reading. And once it has been gazetted, it is deemed to have been circulated. If you don't go to your pigeonhole, that's another issue.
It's enough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. All the pigeonholes of the members suffices, and we will agree with you. If there is an evidence to show that members' pigeonholes have gotten this delivery, then it is deemed to have been circulated, because you may not have time and the resources to go to all the rooms, and you may not even have the time to print every bill and start sharing it here. But it is the responsibility of the sponsors. That is why you're a sponsor of a bill. You don't just drop it at the clerk and then you go home and sleep. It's one of the things that you're expected to do. Follow up your bill, find out the distribution ahead of time before the day it comes to the Parliament. So for now, the chairman rules and business is saying this bill has been circulated. We will accept his position on this because he said it has been circulated. It is now left for you members to confirm when you go to your pigeonhole, and to also advise your aides to always visit the pigeonhole so that you always have access to these particular bills that we want to debate.